Could an algorithm predict the next Premier League sensation? I fed 10 years of EFL data, finances, manager patience and attendance into a K-means clustering model to find the next Brighton, Brentford or Bournemouth. And the results? They are surprising, but actually make a lot of sense. 30 years ago, giants like Liverpool, Manchester United and Arsenal were Premier League staples. Bournemouth, Brighton and Brentford, they were buried deep in the EFL. To put it into perspective, in 96-97, Brentford was struggling to get out of the third tier, Bournemouth were 16th in that same league, and Brighton were one spot away from dropping out of the EFL entirely. So why are these three clubs significant? These clubs have gone from being EFL teams at various levels with no Premier League experience to being mainstays in the biggest league in the world. Many EFL teams have fought against the odds to be promoted to the Premier League, but have quickly dropped back down. I'm talking about the Lutons, the Blackpools and the Bradfords of this world, but not many managed to climb into competitive positions. We all know Brighton and Brentford climbed from the bottom to the top, but who's next? I looked at the teams with the exact same DNA of stability and smart spending. I filtered out the giants and the former Premier League sides to find three clubs most primed to explode. But to answer the question, I used machine learning and club history data. The idea is to find clubs with similar characteristics to Brighton, Bournemouth and Brentford. I collected data from the last 10 seasons. League position by season, net spend per season, transfer arrivals per season, average attendance, league points, outgoing transfers, number of managers per season. And from this I was able to create for every club average league position, positional volatility, the yo-yo factor, financial aggression, average relative net spend, average squad turnover, and manager patience, which is days per manager. The machine learning script put Brighton, Bournemouth and Brentford, along with other clubs, into a group called modern consistent climbers. These are the clubs that are run in a way that makes other EFL fans jealous. High manager patience, solid performance and a clear long-term strategy without throwing millions at the wall and hoping it'll stick. They're calculated and they build upwards. This group has 19 other teams. I removed 16 of them that have already tasted Premier League football, leaving us with 3 potential candidates. Interestingly, Swansea, who have been a Premier League club, could be considered the previous versions of Brighton, Brentford and Bournemouth, as they went from being a 4th tier side to being a solid, sustainable Premier League side for a number of years, with a strong transfer strategy. With these clubs removed, we have 3 teams left. These are potentially the 3 teams most likely to become the next Brighton, Brentford or Bournemouth, a sustainable Premier League club. Firstly, Preston North End, a club with a rich history. While they've never played in the modern Premier League, they were actually the original giants of English football, winning the very first league championship. From a historical perspective, they absolutely have what it takes to be a Premier League club, but let's see what their data says. Their 10-year average position puts them in the mid-table of the Championship. They've been there for some time now and have really built up some stability. Their yo-yo factor is one of the lowest, as they've really not moved much. Their financial aggression is 60th out of the 92, and their squad turnover is on the lower end of the scale. So they don't go for high quantities of transfers. They're in the upper quartile of manager patience. They are in the 14,000s for average attendance over the last 10 years, which is in the lower end when looking at Championship and Premier League, which average around 30,000. But interestingly, when looking at Bournemouth on a chart that plots attendance with league position, they're an outlier, sitting far higher than others with similar crowds. But if we look left, we can see other teams overperforming. Preston are there. So based on this, it could happen, but it's less likely than the next 2 teams. Looking at their league position history, they went from being a strong top flight side until the 1960s. They then spent time in the 4th tier in the 80s and 90s before rising back to the 2nd tier, but they seem to be struggling to push past their wall of mid-table championships. The second team in this group is based in the biggest city in England to have never had a Premier League club. Number 2, Bristol City. City, much like North End, have spent time in the top flight, but they were last there in the 1980s before the Premier League began. After leaving the top flight, they quickly plummeted down to the 4th tier and really look like they're still in a gradual recovery still. They've had many ups and downs, but they do appear to be trending upward slowly since their last dip into League One. They have a Premier League ready stadium and a great infrastructure, but they currently don't seem to hang on to their best players quite long enough for them to drag them up to the top flight. On average, over the last 10 years, City sit mid-table in the Championship. They're statistically neck and neck with Preston in terms of stability, but they have a distinct advantage in terms of infrastructure. They are quite a lot less financially aggressive than Preston, as they tend to make more money than they spend on transfers, which could be the missing piece for them. They have almost exactly the same squad turnover as North End, putting City on the lower end of the scale. They have very similar manager patience to Preston as well. Where the two teams differ massively is attendance, as City's average is just over 20,000, putting them mid to high in the Championship. Perhaps with a bit more financial aggression, the attendances would go up as well. City have had a couple of solid seasons, reaching the playoffs in 2025, but last season they didn't really trouble the top 6, unlike the final team in this group. Our third team, Millwall. As it stands now, Millwall look like the most likely of these teams to break into the Premier League. The London club spent some time in the top flight in the late 80s before the Premier League. They've never gone up since, but have flirted with promotion a number of times, most recently in the 25-26 season. Since the 60s, they've really bounced around between the 2nd tier and the 3rd tier, but since 2009, they've really been on the upward trajectory, which seems to be pointing them towards a promotion. Their 10-year average position is 0.4 places above Preston and 0.8 above Bristol City, putting them as a mid-table in the Championship. They are, however, 36th highest for yo-yo factor. Millwall has the momentum, but their volatility is a double-edged sword. They could easily push for Europe or fall right back to the bottom of the Championship. They're 11th highest for financial aggression, possibly too high if they want to really be sustainable in the Premier League, but they do have a low squad turnover, so they spend more on fewer players. They also have a high manager patience, which will help them too, and their average attendance is the lowest of the three at just over 13,600, but again, a Premier League run will pull this up. Their lower attendance highlights they need to have a sustainable and profitable transfer strategy. So who will the next Brighton, Bournemouth or Brentford be? The data shows that Preston, Bristol City and Millwall share similar sort of DNA with Brighton, Brentford and Bournemouth and other sustainable top flight clubs in Crystal Palace, Fulham and Everton. But which one's most likely to make the step up? Based on recent league positions and momentum, Millwall look most likely to get promoted in the next year or two, but out of the three clubs, the one that has the stability and attendances to really survive for longer periods of time in the Premier League is Bristol City. City have a good fan base, a decent stadium and the infrastructure to make it, but the data shows they're lacking when it comes to financial aggression. They've made some great income from players like Alex Scott and Antoine Semenyo, but if they start throwing a bit more weight behind their squad and keep hold of key players for a little longer, they could go up. Millwall has the momentum, but the data says Bristol City has the infrastructure, and if they stop selling their best assets too early, they're the ones to watch. Do you agree, or is my algorithm missing something? Drop your pick in the comments below. And before you go, have a look at my 92 Decoded video, which takes every English football club and fits them into 6 personas using this similar sort of data. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more data-driven football videos.